Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again with a very unexpected review. This movie, I literally just found out about this movie last night. I was watching one of my favorite channels, Revival House, and they were doing a George Romero tier list, and they mentioned, just like randomly in the middle of the review, that there was actually a supposed sequel to the original Night of the Living Dead called Festival of the Living Dead, and it's coming out this year. And I looked up and I saw, oh shit, it's coming out tomorrow. And then I looked and I saw, oh shit, it's on Tubi. And then I got onto Tubi and I was like, oh shit, it's already on Tubi. And so I knew at that point this was what I was going to watch today. And right when I got up, the first thing I did, well, I won't tell you about the first thing I did, but the second or third thing I did was put on this movie. And wow, right off the bat, a couple minutes, I think like 5 minutes into it, I was like vigorously taking notes. I was rewinding it several times so that I could really focus and pay attention to look at the minor details of just all the shit on the screen. It's just, this movie was like a gift from the bad movie gods, because there's so many, this is just, I'm so thankful that I discovered this movie. I'm so thankful, because this is a Tubi original, and if I had just seen the cover, you got this like pink lighting on it, and you got the green. I mean, it's a nice color scheme, I guess, but I would have just thought it was just some random zombie movie. I wouldn't have ever suspected that it was a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. Plus, I mean, anything that has Tubi original on it is almost automatically a pass for me. I did try to watch the Terror Train remake. They actually made two of them. They made a sequel, and I didn't watch that one, but I tried watching the first one, and I could only get through like 10 minutes of it, and I turned it off. This movie, however, I just could not get enough of it. I mean, here's my non-spoiler review, because I'm going to pick this movie apart like piece by piece, because there's just so much to talk about. It's like I'm so excited. I'm feeling tingles. It's like my spider sense is tingling on this one. And a couple other things too. And by the way, my cat is snoring in the background, so if you hear any noises that sound like that's him snoring. That's what he sounds like when he snores. So, but overall, this movie's pretty bad. I mean, I can't hate it though, because it's so enjoyable in like a good bad way, and there's just so many things to love about it. Like, I love watching movies like this where, it's really pretty bad, but there's so many things to like about it that it makes you like the movie accidentally. And so you're just sitting there smiling the entire movie, because even though it's terrible, you're like, this is good terrible. This is the kind of terrible that I want to watch on a semi-regular basis. And the big problem with it is the fact that it's connected to Night of the Living Dead. There doesn't really feel like there's any connection there at all. I mean, the couple of connections that they try to make are really piss poor, and the script is terrible. The characters are really, really unlikable for the most part. There's a couple of them that are really good that I liked, but there's a lot of like really stereotypical Gen Z characters, very reminiscent of the Goosebumps series from last year. Where you had those main characters, nobody cared about them. They were so bad that they literally rebooted the entire show for season 2. And these are like on the same level. These characters I mean, like, the main character, she's so cliche. There's so many cliches about her, and just there's so many cliches throughout the whole movie, and a lot of the zombie stuff is crappy too, because one of the things that zombie movies have a lot of the times is they'll have unique zombies. Like, zombies that stand out, that they have like a quirk about them, like in my favorite zombie movie, which is the Night of the Living Dead remake from the 90s. They had probably my favorite zombie was the autopsy zombie from that movie. When Barbara is in the graveyard and she's in the car, and you see this zombie and his clothes fall off, and you can see he's got this grotesque, like, autopsy scar on his chest and everything. It is so gross and disgusting, but he's just so scary and creepy. And throughout that movie, every zombie is, like, unique and just so incredibly, like, there's so much art involved with, the best zombie movies. But then with movies like this, there's pretty much there's one or two unique zombies, but other than that, they're all just like Gen Z people who are zombies, And that was kind of on purpose, because there's supposed to be some sort of messaging in this movie about not conforming and not being like not trying to fit in, like being yourself and standing out from the crowd. But it's really weird because it just comes out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden that's all the movie becomes about in the second half, and it's just so on the nose and not like subtle or clever at all. It's just like the characters are constantly like, I just wanted to fit in, and I just wanted to do this thing and do high school the normal way, and all this like after school special lines and shit. Also, the movie, I would say, if anything, it doesn't remind me of Night of the Living Dead. It reminds me of, if you guys have ever played Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, if you ever played the zombie maps, they had this one, and it was called Rave in the Redwoods. It was kind of like a Friday the 13th kind of tribute, and it had Kevin Smith in it as well. This is exactly what that reminds me of. Like, it's so much like that like the whole movie I was just thinking about Infinite Warfare, zombies. And that zombies map though was really good, and I would highly recommend that game. But yeah, like this whole movie is centered around this festival too, that is celebrating the survivors of Night of the Living Dead, the original movie. And what's funny is that this festival is so weird, like, that you just think about, apparently in the original movie, they kind of retcon and make it to where a meteor caused it. This meteor and the radiation from the meteor or something. And for some reason, the same meteor is still there in the site of, like, the original movie, I guess. And you just think about, if that really happened in real life, the government would have taken it away. They would have put it in Area 51. It would not have just been sitting around in the middle of Nowheresville where stupid Gen Z idiots could come over and snort it and call it the Stardust Challenge. And that's one of the many dumb things that they do. They make drugs out of it and shit. It's just really, really weird. And just the festival is basically a Great Value Burning Man. And so, as I said, if you connect this to the original Night of the Living Dead, and you really take it seriously, you're going to have a terrible time. But if you just watch it and just have fun, then you're going to have a lot of fun, because this movie is just, it's never ending. There's so much crap. I wanted to do a commentary even, like it's like endless. It's like every single thing about the movie, every single shot is worth talking about, like just everything. Like, I've never seen a movie like this before in a while. Anyways, let's get started. So that's my non-spoilerish review of the movie. Now let's get to spoilers. Okay, where do we even begin? Like, I'm scrolling up through all these vigorous notes. Okay, so God, this is a daunting task. This is like facing like a whole army of zombies all by yourself, and you got nothing but like a little water pistol or some shit. So you got this main character. Her name is Ash. What's really funny is I know that they meant to call her Ash because they were tributing Evil Dead and Ash and Evil Dead, but I just found it to be really strange and really kind of like inappropriate or kind of hilarious that, like, you know, this is she's supposed to be the granddaughter of Ben in the original Night of the Living Dead, and I just find it so hilarious that like the first like or one of the first like major black characters in a movie, like a main player where he's like a main character and he was like the star of that movie, basically. I just find it really hilarious that they chose to call her granddaughter Ash. I mean, you couldn't have picked a worse name. I mean, just of all the names to pick, you chose to call her Ash. I mean, it's... In the whole movie, she's wearing this outfit, and I will say, her outfit is kind of cute. It's like this kind of weird outfit where she's got these straps. Like, she's got, like, a shirt over this top, and then she's got these, like, pink straps. And it's a cute outfit, though. And she's got a little brother. He's a lot like... For some reason, in a lot of these modern horror movies, there's always, like, a really smart-ass little brother who, like, manages to survive the whole thing. And so, like, I automatically knew that, like, what was going to happen with that in this movie. Like, you'd have this little brother character. He comes along for the ride, too, at some point. And then he magically survives. And he's kind of like a jokester as well. And, you know, I liked his character, though. He was one of the few characters that I liked. And then you have Ruby Rose. Well, she's not Ruby Rose, but I thought she kind of looked like her. And it was so funny because in calling her Ruby Rose, I didn't even realize that she was Catwoman from Gotham. You know, I only watched one episode of Gotham, and then I turned it off, and I never watched the series again after that first episode. You know, I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in this. You know, I prefer like Smallville and shit with Allison Mack and her weird ass, because, like, yeah, Smallville's awesome, by the way. Like, if you want to watch something that's actually good, just go watch Smallville. Save yourself from Rave of the Living Dead, because that's what this movie really should have been called. I mean, it looked more like a rave, like a Burning Man rave or something. But yeah, this Ruby Rose character, the whole movie, she has this similar expression, and I will give her credit. She was also a character that I liked for various reasons. Scientific reasons, as a matter of fact. And she had this very similar expression like 80%, 90% of the movie, where it looked like she was constipated or she was wearing a butt plug or something. Like, the whole movie, she just had this face like she was very forlorn about something. She was very, like, distressed or sad. Like, maybe she was, like, an orphan or something. And, like, she's got this sad face the entire movie. And you just can't help but feel sorry for her or something. Because it's like, what's going on with her? You know, like, she's kind of shit on the whole movie, too. And you know, she's one of the real ones, though, because she doesn't conform. She's herself. You know, she chooses to do what she wants to do. unlike the main character and unlike the two guys. And then she's also got a boyfriend. He's in a wheelchair. And he's awesome, too. I really liked his character a lot. I thought if the movie just starred her and him, I probably would have liked it even more, like, without thinking it's, like, a bad, good movie, because, like, they were the only likable characters along with the little brother. And he kind of looked like Haley Joel Osment. Like, if Haley Joel Osment grew up and, like, lost his legs, like, that's what he would look like, I guess. But he was really good. I liked him a lot. And then, finally, you had the two boyfriends. Oh, yeah, and then there were these twin girls who got killed as well. They were kind of like just victim characters, you know. They weren't really characters. They were just kind of like wallpaper. So one of the guys, he was in the Yaira live-action trailer. If you guys don't know, I've never seen a Soska Sisters movie before. This was my first one. The only thing of theirs that I'd seen up to this point is that really bad Yaira live-action trailer, which is probably the worst thing I've ever seen on YouTube, besides, I don't know, I don't know if there's something worse, actually. I don't know. I'd have to really think about it. I don't know. Overboard humor, maybe when he had his downfall, some of the videos that he made, they're the worst on YouTube as well. But Yaira was close. And there's this guy in the trailer, and he plays this character called Lincoln Eusebio. And so, like, this whole movie, I'm just going to call that guy Lincoln because I don't even remember his character's name in the movie. He's a shithead. He's an unlikable Gen Z stereotype. And then the other boyfriend, he's another, like, shitty Gen Z stereotype. And he's the jackass, like, rich jock boyfriend of the main character. So those are the characters of this movie. Now let's finally start talking about the plot. So in the basement of this house, of Ben's family's house, for some reason, the family of Ben, they're conveniently big fans of Soska Sisters movies. So they've got all these Soska Sisters movies posters on the walls in frames. Like, you know, they love these movies so much they're framed on the walls. And right next to that, you have Ben's memorial. Like, with all these pictures of him and stuff. And it's like, number one, this is very distasteful if he died. But apparently, according to this movie, Ben in Night of the Living Dead did not die. So this movie, strike number one, is that it changes the first movie, where now, apparently, he did not die. He got shot to death at the end of Night of the Living Dead, but apparently, he is not dead in this universe, because that's just too terrible. You know, even though that was the whole fucking point of that fucking movie. You know? But who cares? We gotta do this story here, where Ben continued to live on. He had a family and everything. The family is in love with movies like American Mary and something about hookers or something like that, and these Soska Sisters movies. Really, really bizarre. So the Ash's boyfriend, he finds Ben's old gun, and for some reason they have his old gun, like, up on the walls. And he picks it up and he uses it to play around and point it at people like a little child. And then Ash says, "My grandfather shot real living corpses with that." You know, that's a line in the movie. He shot real living corpses with that. And he almost shoots her brother as well, which is kind of like foreshadowing, I guess, for the rest of the movie, because for some reason they get... we're not to that point yet, but anyways. For some reason, now there were a lot of minor details that I noticed too. That for some reason Lincoln, he couldn't handle carrying 3 red cups. You know those party cups, those plastic red cups? He couldn't handle carrying all 3 cups in his hands. So he has 1 or 3 of them in his mouth while he walks up the stairs from the basement. Like, what? Like, that's so stupid and unnecessary. Why wouldn't you just, if you needed to hold on to the stair railing, then why don't you just hold the 3 cups in your left hand and hold on to the railing with the right hand? And I had to rewind a couple of times because I was like, why is there a cup in his mouth? So then, as I said, people are snorting dust from the living dead meteor, and they're calling it the Stardust Challenge. And again, this doesn't make any sense at all, because you think about, obviously, if this meteor landed on Earth and killed people and turned them into the living dead, why would you be snorting meteor dust from it years and years later? That's so stupid, and it's still glowing. It's glowing like it's in a science fiction movie or some shit. They're snorting it. I mean, how dumb could you get? And then the little brother, he strolls into the kitchen because he ran out of chips. And now the kitchen counters, they pretty much have nothing on them. You know, the main, like, counter in the middle has, like, a bowl of fruit. And then a couple of water bottles that are unopened. Don't have any labels on them, or wait, maybe they did, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But then the only food prop conveniently on the other counters is this bag of chips. And the bag of chips, it's a really gross, like, kale chips bag, and it's conveniently, like, positioned to where, you know, you can perfectly see what it is. It's just so conveniently the only food prop on the entire counter. Like, they couldn't have, like, buns and bread and Pop-Tarts, and all the brands are faced away from the camera like in usual houses. No, the only food prop on this entire counter is a bag of chips, and it's like displayed. It's like a museum exhibit, and she picks it up and tosses it at him, and it's like, ooh, product placement of the living dead. Well, actually, that could be a really good movie. If you want to make a really good, like, Living Dead movie, you could have, like, an advertisement company. They make a bunch of advertisements of, like, different food products and stuff, and zombies attack or something. I don't know. You could have a Living Dead carrot and a Living Dead Pop-Tart fighting each other. So then, these characters, remember those red cups that Lincoln got from the basement? Well, they're drinking out of these red cups that don't have anything in them. Because, like, they have these water bottles on the counter. They could have just poured half of the water out of each bottle into the cups, and you wouldn't have been able to see the amount of water in the fucking cups. Like, the audience is going to notice that they're drinking out of empty cups. The audience isn't going to notice if they're drinking water that's like a clear liquid from far away. They're not even in the foreground of the shot, but you can see clearly that, like, they're drinking out of empty cups. Like, why would they do that? Just why? Why? Okay. So yeah, the main character, Ash, she's supposed to be, and I just can't stop laughing at that name too, but she's supposed to be likable, but she leaves her brother with Ruby Rose to go to this festival because her rich boyfriend already got all the tickets and everything. So she just leaves her brother home, her diabetic brother, with Ruby Rose. So then they're on the way to the festival. It's supposed to be like a road trip, but there's not really any road trip sequence. It's basically like 1 minute and they're already there. So, like, I guess this festival is like 5 minutes away from them, but they made it seem like it was like far away or something, or it was like a road trip experience. But there's no road trip at all. So that was kind of a fail. Sorry. But the main character's boyfriend, he mentions that they're going to be allowed to use the staff entrance. Instead, they drive to the main entrance road where all the other people go, right off the bat. And when they're doing that, there's this whole traffic jam, tons of cars that are there lined up. And so then the boyfriend is like, we're going to use a shortcut. It's okay. I know this little shortcut a ways back. And then guess where they go, guys? They go to the staff entrance, which isn't even guarded at all. It's like this drive down a forest where you think, like, if any of these other people had a brain, they would just drive down there too, because there's no security or anything letting people in or taking people's tickets. It's like people don't even need tickets to get into this festival. They just get in there and start getting high and doing whatever they want. And so that's just retarded. Like, they were supposed to use the staff entrance from the very beginning. Like, what the fuck is up with that? And this main character, she's supposed to be likable, but she agrees to kiss her boyfriend while he's driving, and so that he can feed her drugs. And then they crash into this zombie, and, you know, it's a typical, that's a very typical horror movie cliche where people crash into something right off in the beginning of the movie, you know, and that's how everything starts off. That's a very typical thing. Like, you know, you think about Dolls, a much better movie from last year. You know, that whole movie started off because the main characters, they ran out of gas or they crashed or whatever, and they had to go stay at that house that was nearby, you know. Then we are treated to the main hunky boyfriend. He gets out of the car and he pukes in explicit detail. And this is apparently because the Soska sisters, they have a puke fetish. So we had to see this, like, graphic, like, puking scene. It was just very random and oddly placed that he just wasn't doing that in the background. It was, like, very focused in on, you know, like a Tarantino foot shot. So I guess, like, that's kind of been, like, a weird thing nowadays where, like, you can clearly tell, like, what the director's sexual fetishes are by, like, the stuff that they choose to show. And I guess I'm okay with that. I guess just what I'm not okay with is the fact that it's a bad movie. Like, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's a great movie. So, I mean, all the fetish shots I don't care about. But, like, since this is a bad movie, that's when it's a problem. And these main characters, I thought, you know what would be a perfect way to describe the main people in this movie, the Gen Zers? They're like walking advertisements for birth control pills. That's what they are. And then the boyfriend, he has a great line. He says, we have to treat this so seriously. And earlier on in the movie, too, when she gets mad at him, when Ash gets mad at him for playing around with that gun, which they bring along, by the way, for some reason, he got mad at her, and he was like, babe, sometimes you're just so serious. Why so serious, babe? Sometimes you're just too serious, and I don't like it when you're serious. He's like, but no, we got to treat this so seriously. And also, I would like to point out that this is another movie, yet another movie where the nice girl, or, you know, there's always a nice girl, and she's with a jackass for some reason. You know, like in that Friday the 13th remake and a lot of other movies, like, that is such a consistent trope now, where, like, you have this poor, innocent, and likable girl, and for some reason she's with a jackass guy. And it's like, I'm so sick of seeing that. But at least in this movie, there's a point to it, and it's like that's the whole point, is that like I guess apparently she dated him because he was popular and rich, which doesn't make her look any better, by the way, but whatever. There's also an irony here. There was a really funny sequence where the two twin girls, they were left behind. And they had this health drink, and they said earlier in the movie, this drink, it has all the nutrients your body needs. You won't even need to eat. You can just drink this drink. It's this strange health drink. I've never heard of it before. It felt like another product placement advertisement. I guess that these are the product placement types of things that you do in Tubi original movies. These terrible food items that no one wants to eat at all. Because, like, I would rather become a zombie than eat kale chips. I would rather... okay, I'm not going to go there. Anyway. But, they're doing drugs. They're getting drunk. They're just, like, party people. But there's this real irony to seeing, like, one of the twins, like, taking a big swig of this health drink. And, it was just really, really, like, silly. And that zombie that they ran over, it approaches the twins in the car. And her first instinct is to get in the car, close the doors, and honk at the zombie. Like, that's her first instinct, is, like, to honk at him. Like, just thinking about... I'm really sick and tired of, like, when people talk about the original Night of the Living Dead movie, that they call Barbara, like, this terrible female character, and oh my gosh, she's such a weak character, meh. But it's like, she was very realistic. Like, there would be a lot of people in that situation who would really, really have trouble, and they just freak out about everything. But, like, I would much rather have Barbara from the 1960s movie than have, like, a girl who is so idiotic she chooses to honk at a zombie. And this zombie, by the way, he's clearly wearing a rubber mask. Because you can hear it. You can hear it when he's doing the rah, rah. You can hear the muffled sounds of his voice. Like, here, I have a mask right here. It is a prop. And when someone puts a mask on, you can hear that they have a mask on. And so, let's listen. I'm going to do one without and then one with the mask on. And my cat is like, what the fuck? Okay, now let's put it on. I mean, you can hear a difference. You can hear the difference there. So, like, you got this rubber mask zombie, and guess what he does, guys? He comes over, and remember how in the original movie, the graveyard zombie, he breaks the window with the brick? He just picks up and he's like, rawr! He just fucking smashes it in. This zombie, he uses his rubber mask head to break the window with his own head. So, like, that was pretty hilarious. And then they just cut away. So then, the guy who did the Stardust Challenge, there's a video uploaded on, like, Instagram or something where he is puking all over, like, on camera. And I was like, oh, here's another fetish shot. Like, here's another puking fetish shot. Very strange. So Ruby Rose and her wheelchair boyfriend make a weird comment about the main character supposedly, having lost her virginity to go to this festival. And it makes no sense. She's been dating this guy for 3 months. There's never any other mention of her being a virgin or her losing her virginity to him ever. So I guess it's just like, I don't know, it's a very weird thing to say. Like, it's basically there because the writers are thinking about how people think about final girls and how they're typically these boring virgins who have faces like Ruby Rose has in this movie, where they just look constipated the whole movie, and and they're always virgins, except for like the some of the better ones, you know, like Scream or Sydney. She couldn't wait, and you know she lost her virginity to the killer, and that was fucking awesome. But and it's a weird comment that they make. As I said, the script for this movie is terrible. So, like, yeah, I didn't know what that comment was about. It was like, because one character, the wheelchair guy, he says that he can't ever go to this festival because, you know, he just doesn't have the money, and he delivers groceries for a living. He would have to save up a lot of money to get those the grocery money to go to this festival. But you're sitting there thinking, like, wait a second. This guy's in a wheelchair. He doesn't have legs. So how does he push the pedals? You know, like, as far as I'm aware, and I could be mistaken on this because I'm not a wheelchair user, and so I wouldn't know. But how does someone in a wheelchair reach the pedals so that they can go around and deliver groceries? I mean, that's just like, come on. Like, seriously. Like, what's up with that? Like, like, how is he going to deliver groceries in the first place? Like, is someone going to take him around so that he can deliver them? Like, just, this movie. But yeah, but after that, I think she or he says something about, like, Ash could have only gone to this festival because she lost her virginity to her boyfriend or something. It's such a weird line. I just can't get over it. It's a terrible line. I wish that line was cut out of the movie because it was so random and stupid. It didn't fit at all. And yeah, as I said, this is like a Great Value Burning Man festival because it has, like, they have, like, this big wooden statue that they like to burn down. So yeah, it's like Burning Man. Like, I don't understand, like, why would they do that? Like, just the festival sucks. It just sucks compared to, like, what it could have been. Thinking about, like, what would you do, realistically, if these were real people who survived this attack, which nobody survived, by the way, except for the jackasses and the rednecks and the fucking weird townspeople that you don't even get to see most of the movie. Nobody survived that movie. But if people survived, how would the festival, how would there be, like, what would you do? Like, you wouldn't do what they did in this movie. That's for sure. You wouldn't do a Great Value Burning Man festival, you know. You would do something better. I don't know, like, I just, it's troublesome to think about because I can't really think of, like, a real-life equivalent, you know, like, there's not, like, they don't have a Columbine High School festival every year to celebrate the children who survived the shooting at that school. You know, they don't have, like, you know, they don't have things like this in real life, you know. Like, this would have to be, because I don't know, like, it would just have to be, like, a generic horror festival where, like, they have, like, a booth or a stand that deals with, like, the Night of the Living Dead original events or something. Like, that's the only way I could see it, like, realistically happening. So, like, the whole festival thing is already, like, that's already a problem from the very beginning because it just doesn't seem like it would actually happen. So Ruby Rose, her boyfriend, and the younger brother come up with this plan. And the whole time they don't even bother to take his insulin with him or anything because he's diabetic. I didn't even know he was diabetic until, like, the half of the movie was over, because earlier on in the movie the sister says, "Watch your blood sugar," And I thought that maybe that's just some shitty line because every line in this movie is shitty. But, like, no. And I just thought, like, why wouldn't Ruby Rose think to take his insulin? Like, if she... Like, if her... See, it's just... These characters just suck. Like, why wouldn't the sister have told her he's diabetic? Or just why wouldn't Ruby Rose think about that? I mean, just very, very weird. I guess Ruby Rose was too focused on how she had a butt plug inside of her the whole movie. And because the whole movie, I swear to God, she was just like, oh, like just every shot where she was on screen, it was like, and so they come up with a plan to go to the festival, and they're going to pretend like they're delivering groceries to the festival. Not just any groceries, not like groceries that people at a festival would actually use. Guess what they're pretending to deliver? Lettuce and tomatoes. The only thing that I can think of is that lettuce and tomatoes are cheap, and so the people who made this movie, they couldn't afford to get like ding-dings and ho-hos and shit fucks, you know. They could only afford to get lettuce and tomato. And so I just thought that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Ruby Rose even mentions, you know, in the adult world, people check IDs and shit. We can't do that. It's not going to work and shit. And I was like, yeah, I know, you're right. But then they go there, it works. Nobody even bothers to check because there's already a zombie outbreak happening. There was hardly any staff at this festival ever in the first place. So we're not even halfway through the movie at this point. So the main characters, the A team, because there's an A team and a B team at this point. The A team, they go to the medical trailer or the staff trailer. And now here was another part where the Soska sisters were kind of like putting things in there deliberately so that they could tell you who they are and what they like. Because right off the bat, when they get into the trailer, there's like this rainbow flag thing that's sticking out very conveniently so that you can see it in the background. Very deliberate prop placement in this movie. You know, I mean, very, very, like, deliberate. Like, it's just so not subtle at all. You know, like, you think about all the great movies of, like, the 80s and the 70s and 60s and 50s, and you think about how when you do, like, these placements of things that you want people to maybe see in like, another watch-through of the movie, they place them very smartly and cleverly. Like in The Shining, where you had the bear toys with Danny, and you had the Goofy, sorry, I couldn't remember his name, the Goofy puppet thing, and the Goofy puppet looks like Wendy and stuff like that. Like, very, very smart the way that stuff was placed. And then you compare that to this movie, where there's just this rainbow flag sticking out, like, right off the bat when they get into this trailer. And then, that's not bad. If that's not bad enough, they get into the main room, and you have these stars. There are these star decorations, and the stars are purposefully turned to where they're, like, upside down, and so it's like a pentagram, you know, like the satanic pentagram, and that's because these Soska sisters are Satanists. And so I just thought, like, this is really, really weird. Like, this placement that they're doing in this movie. Really, really weird. And yeah, that was another weird, like, detail that I noticed that I wouldn't have noticed probably if the movie was better. Because if the movie was better, I wouldn't be, like, paying attention to all these little details that are just so, like, funny to talk about that you just can't help but talk about them. Another big problem with this movie is that the zombies in this movie, they don't look or act like the zombies from the original movie. I mean, some of them have, like, darkness around their eyes and pale faces, but that's about it. Other than that, they act like zombies from Land of the Dead or excuse me, sorry, or The Walking Dead, they do not act like the Romero zombies at all. And it's just weird because the only excuse that I could think of that maybe they would say is that, oh, maybe the meteor has now been there for years and years. Maybe the radiation turns you into a different kind of zombie. But that's just stupid because, like, the radiation would turn you into the same type of zombie that it would have turned you into in the 60s. You know, like, if you overdose on a drug, it's not going to look any different years later when someone else overdoses on a drug, right? Like, years and years later, you're not going to see someone have a different overdose, doing the same drug, overdosing on the same drug, or maybe like a vampire. Like, a vampire in whatever movie universe is going to be the exact same years and years later, like when another person is turned into one. You know what I mean? Like, so I just... So, yeah. 42 minutes into the movie, and the movie is an hour and 28 minutes long. So I'm like halfway through now. Ugh. 42 minutes into the movie is when they finally get to the quote-unquote Night of the Living Dead part. You know, the part where all the strangers meet up and they run into a house so that they can barricade themselves in there. Oh, wait a second. They don't barricade themselves into this trailer because the little brother is having a diabetic problem. I don't know what it's called, like diabetic shock or something like that. I don't know. But he's having a problem because he needs insulin. And all they do when they get into this trailer is they fight. You know, they fight with each other. They scream and yell at each other. And you're just reminded of how unlikable these characters are. But I just gotta say, man, you know the best thing about this movie? When Ruby Rose was pushing her wheelchair boyfriend into the trailer, well, I guess maybe he wasn't her boyfriend because they talked later on about how eventually they'd end up together, so I guess they were just best friends that were gonna be dating at some point. That was kind of strange too. But when she wheels him on in there, I was like, holy shit. Ruby Rose in this movie, she has the best dump truck that I've seen on screen probably in my entire life. Like, I was like, wow. Okay. The Soska sisters, they have to know. Because that's another thing that I've noticed nowadays too, is that there is like a deliberate, like, weird attempt to, like, censor people's dump trucks. You know, like, especially like in Jurassic World 3, Jurassic World Dominion, you know, Bryce Dallas Howard, she's got dump trucks for days. And, like, they deliberately, like, cut off the screen so that you can't see that. Because, like, they have this, like, weird thing now of where women aren't allowed to look sexy in movies anymore because of male gaze. And so, like, I am really thankful that the Soska sisters know what's up with this shit because they knew. They had to have known. When they cast Ruby Rose, they didn't just cast her for her like befuddled, scared, sad orphan face. They cast her because she has the best dump truck in Hollywood history, like, in this movie. Like, I was like, wow, if this movie was in theaters, I would have paid to see this movie every night for like 2 weeks straight to see Ruby Rose in this movie. Just for that one shot alone when she wheels her boyfriend into the trailer. Because that, my dear children, is what we call cinema. And I don't know why I called you children. So anyways, Ben's granddaughter too, she has his gun and she's using it on the zombies. And it's weird because she automatically already knows how to use this gun pretty effectively. And I thought, like, if you're gonna go that route and make it to where she already knows how to use the gun, establish, like, early on in the movie, like, have, like, a shot where she's shooting a gun, or when she took the gun away from the boyfriend, give her a couple of lines of dialogue where she talks about gun safety, and she says, like, you're never supposed to do this and that, you're supposed to do this and that, and stuff like that, because it just felt like, yeah, conveniently the main character knows how to use this gun, and it's just very easy for her, barely any inconvenience, as the movie pitch meeting guy would say, which is really sad, because pitch meeting guy, he's not going to do a pitch meeting for, like, a movie like this. So I feel like I have a little bit of an obligation sometimes to, like, use that line, like, because like, seriously, like, he'll never review this movie, but if he does, then that'd be really cool, because he would have a lot of fun ripping this movie to shreds. So the Night of the Living Dead part, it lasts for like 2 seconds. And the big problem with this Night of the Living Dead part is, number one of the cool things about Night of the Living Dead, there were 2 things that were very appealing about it. Number one, it was really creative, and it was fun, because even though they're in this horrifying situation, it was really fun to think about, like, what would I do in this situation? Or what things can they get in this house to survive? How do they survive this? Like, oh, do they create these, like, these Molotov cocktails? Like, ooh, cool. Like, what would I do? Oh, there's this little paper here. There's this little thing here. Ooh, I would take those things. And, there's a lot of creativity about, like, using the environment around you. Because it was such a low-budget movie, too. I mean, it was because it was low budget. They couldn't really do anything. It was very creative in that way. And in this movie, it's like they just get into this trailer and they stand around yelling at each other for 10 minutes. But also, in the original movie, the characters, I know that some of them were unlikable, like Cooper, and I don't know, that the Tom's girlfriend was kind of a ditz, but, like, they were interesting characters. You really liked watching them interact with each other. You really liked seeing them. It was like a character study some of the time in the movie. In this movie, there's like a little tiny bit of a character study, but you don't want to study these characters because they suck. I mean, you would like to study Ruby Rose for scientific reasons, but, like, you would not want to study these characters and think about, like, ooh, what are the inner depths of their minds? Like, oh, the like, what's the rich jackasses? What's he thinking about? Like, is he thinking about, like, getting high? Oh yeah, he is, because they find magic mushrooms and they randomly decide to do magic mushrooms at this festival in the middle of a zombie apocalypse going on, and yeah. There is a cool part, one of the only cool things in the movie. There is a cool part where they rip the face off of one of the zombies, and so he is like one of the only unique zombies in the movie where his face is ripped off, and it's really cool looking. And actually, I thought that was a good effect. And there was some good gore effects throughout this movie, but a lot of the shooting stuff looked really fake and phony, too. I mean, the original, you could also say, I mean, the original had some bad effects, too. I mean, a lot of people point to that clay hand, where this zombie clay hand reaches in and Ben, like, smashes it, and you can just tell it's clay. But I always love stuff like that, because I much prefer, like, creative, practical stuff like that than, like, pretending to shoot people with, like, computer-generated shots and just really fake-looking crap. So anyways, Lincoln wants to shoot the main girl's brother because he's having a diabetic problem, And conveniently, the characters can go to the ambulance that was called for the two girls earlier on in the movie. But the evil guys don't want to do that. They just want the brother to sit there and die because they're stupid and idiots and everything. And this is where the weird subplot begins, where the whole movie, as it turns out, is all about how you shouldn't want to fit in with people. You should want to be yourself, stand out from the crowd. And the main girl, I guess she didn't go to her friend's party this year because she became a popular girl or something. It's just this really weird shoehorned plot. It feels like an after-school special in the middle of a zombie movie. It's very strange. Oh, shit. Yeah. And then Ash goes into this ambulance where the paramedic, he is conveniently still alive, and he's just on the brink of turning into a zombie. And by on the brink of turning into a zombie, I mean he is literally like seconds away from killing her when she goes in there. So it's just like really convenient that he's not a zombie at that point. And he's like, leave! Leave! And like when he's telling her to leave, he's turning into a zombie too. And she just randomly picks up a piece of flesh and puts it in his mouth on her way out. That was pretty hilarious as well. It was like a chew toy or something. Ow! Sorry, I just smashed my ankle into the desk leg. Is that what you call it? Oh yeah. And so then the wheelchair guy, he's got this line where he says, I've never met someone so badass. Someone who's so chill about being badass too. And he's talking about Ruby Rose, and I thought that's another weird line. I've never met someone so badass. Someone who's so chill about it too. I mean, just imagine if that was on her gravestone. Like, Ruby Rose had a great dump truck and was also very badass. She was so badass, she was chill about it. And then they have this fake emotional moment where Ash encounters the zombie of her boyfriend, because she does break up with him, which I guess that's good because she came to her senses finally. And it's like supposed to be this real emotional moment, and it's basically trying to mirror the moment from the original movie where Johnny encounters Barbara at the end, and she gets emotional and she wants to hug him. And it's really like a dark and scary moment because then he turns her into a zombie. It's just, that was really, really creepy as a kid. Like her wanting to hug him and then she kills herself, and just, that was really scary as a kid. Honestly, this was trying to copy that, but it was just so trash because this character sucks. You don't want her to hug this guy. You want her to get the hell away from him and kill him. And so he like reaches his arms out to try to hug her, and she shoots him, and it's stupid. It's really stupid. And next up, I would like to talk about another beautiful, I would say the cinematography for this movie in regards to Ruby Rose was like phenomenal. Because at this point, I knew that they knew about the dump truck. Because Ruby Rose, she's running around, she's having the zombies chase her so that she can distract them from killing her friend. And she climbs the Burning Man statue. And all the shots that they have of her climbing the statue, they're like so clearly like all these close-ups and shit, so that they could just display her dump truck in full glory. And I was like, at this point, they need to make like a sequel or a spinoff called Night of the Living Dump Trucks, because like that's all I could think about for the rest of this movie. Like, because at this point I was like, okay, this movie is really, really turning to trash now. Because, like, at a certain point, they're just running around in the middle of the dark, and it's just like, no, this is not like Night of the Living Dead, because in that movie, they were in the house most of the movie, and it was all focused on that house, and all focused on these people being together in this little environment, trying to survive. There's very little of the movie where they run around outside in the dark. And when they did, it was scary. Like the part where Ben has to get back to the house in the middle of the dark and he's being chased around and he's got to kill as many zombies as he can. That was scary as shit. And then Cooper wasn't going to let him in either. And like that was really, really intense. Compare that to this movie where they're just running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And so, yeah, apparently Ben's gun, it has like infinite plot convenience bullets. It only runs out of bullets near the end, where all of a sudden, after shooting like 100 bullets throughout the movie, all of a sudden she only has one bullet left. So that was very convenient. And Ruby Rose set the statue on fire, and when she's on top of the statue, they have these really fake CGI pieces of... keep in mind, I don't know what the exact technical term is for like when there's a fire and you have the little tiny pieces of fire that fly up. I think it's like ember or something. I don't know. I can't remember. Sorry. That might make me sound stupid, and so... But these pieces, they're so big and they're so fake looking, it's very distracting. Because at this point, the statue, it was hardly burning at all. It was only burning down at the very bottom. And I was thinking, I don't think that there would be like pieces of flame that would go all the way up to the top, like little pieces of ember or whatever you call it. You know, I don't think that you'd have pieces like that going to the very top where Ruby Rose was at, you know. I think there would only be smoke, and the smoke looked fine. Like, if the smoke was fake, then, you know, it actually looked okay. But the little pieces of fire that flew up there with her, they were so big that they were very noticeably fake. And if they weren't fake, then I'd be very impressed. And then Lincoln takes the little brother with him, and he abandons the wheelchair guy so that he can go find a cure for himself. And he kidnaps him, and he takes him away in his car. And this is where the little brother implies that Ben survived the original movie. And at that point, I was like, this is stupid. This is so stupid. Because I didn't even realize that they were implying that until the very end. I thought maybe he had a sister or something that we never knew about. I don't know. And she continued on the family. I don't know. But there's this repeated line in the movie where the little brother says, it's okay to be scared as long as you're doing the right thing. And I thought that is one of the gayest lines I've ever heard in like movie history. And he says, that's what Ben said. That's what my grandpa said. And I was like, oh God, like, why would they do that? I mean, it's just so cringe. It's like, no, he didn't. He's dead. He died already. Get over it. That was the point of the movie. He didn't say anything. He said, because he was dead. He said, please don't make this shitty-ass Tubi original. That's the only thing he would have said. Dwayne Jones is turning in his grave seeing this movie. But he's probably also thankful for Ruby Rose's terrific dump truck that was in this movie. He would be thankful for that. I would be damn sure. And then at the end, the main characters, they all get circled by zombies, and they have these weapons. Sorry, I don't know what it is. I'm starting to be like Safi. Of like an itch in my throat, sorry. But at the end, you have the wheelchair guy and the two women. And they have weapons now. They have like a symbol, and she's using the gun as a weapon, like a blunt instrument. And there's this really, really terrible looking fight where the zombies are fighting them, and they're fighting with the weapons that they have, and it looks so fake. They're just smashing the zombies in the head. They're just smacking them on the head with these items. And then the zombies just magically fall down like dominoes. It reminded me a lot of Rebel Moon. If you guys remember the terrible action in Rebel Moon, and what that action looked like with God, what has happened to me? Am I turning into a zombie? God, I'm just gonna get up and shake around like, what's the fucking deal here? What do you think, Bernie? I don't know if you heard that, but that's what he thinks about the movie. But if you guys remember the fight in Rebel Moon, where Sophia Boutella, when she rescues that girl from getting gang raped, and they had the little hand-to-hand combat fight with her. Sorry, I don't know what's going on, seriously. That is exactly what this movie's fight scene looked like. Terrible. Or a lot like The Walking Dead, too. But at least in The Walking Dead, they're stabbing the zombies in the head. They're destroying the brain. In this movie, all that they destroy are the zombies' faces, because they just smack the zombies in the face with these instruments, and randomly, the zombies just all fall down. It's like that rhyme, what's that rhyme where like you all fall down, like that plague song? You dance around in a circle and then you all fall down. Like, that's what these zombies were like. They're all falling down like dominoes. And then the little brother, he kills Lincoln and shoots him with Lincoln's gun, and then he drives back himself to save the two chicks. And once again, I have to question, how does the little kid reach the pedals? Like, how does he do that? Why can't just... Because when he showed up at the end, you can see the top of his face in the car, in the window, so you know that he is not actually reaching those pedals himself, which is good for the movie, because they wouldn't be able to do that unless they just did it and they didn't even care, which would have been really dangerous. But like he there's no way he would have been able to reach the pedals like that. So I just really, And then the wheelchair guy, he got bit by a zombie when Lincoln abandoned him. So the wheelchair guy sacrifices himself, and he sets himself on fire. It's really hilarious. So yeah, and then the two girls drive away. Anyways, wow, I really became a zombie there at the end, and yeah. So that's how the movie ends. Again, this is a really bad movie, but a really good movie at the same time. I'm gonna have to end this pretty soon. My grade for the movie, I was really having trouble with a grade because at first I was going to give this a really bad food grade. But I just loved it and enjoyed it so much that I can't give it something really terrible. I have to give it something good, but wouldn't be that good if you really think about it. So the original Night of the Living Dead to me, it is like a steak dinner. It's like a very lean, thin steak with asparagus and a baked potato. This movie is like, what if you went to Buffalo Wild Wings on one of their off days? Because let me tell you something. When you go to Buffalo Wild Wings on one of their off days, they're really having an off day. And what they do a lot of the times is they either cook wings too much, or they don't cook them enough, or there's a lot of fat on them. Like, there was this one time in 2019, it was the day that I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the first time. And I got a wing from there, and it was so hard that it broke a tooth open. That was how hard, because they were not paying attention, and they were being shitty with how they cooked the food, and they were being real shitheads, and they were just not paying attention, and it was terrible. And then there was another couple of times where, you know, they're boneless wings. There will be like these huge pieces of fat, and I don't know if anyone else has ever dealt with this besides me, but like it could be really gross where you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna bite into this Caribbean jerk wing, and then you bite into it and it's this huge chunk of fat. So this movie, it's like if you went to Buffalo Wild Wings on one of their off days, and then you got every single wing on the menu. Just one of each. Now, that might be fun to do once in a while, but it's not a steak dinner. And it's really gross because they're on their off day. And I really can't tell if the Soska sisters are good at making movies in general from this movie, because someone on IMDb said that usually when they write their own movies that they're a lot better. And so I can't really tell you for sure, like, if I would say that they're good at making movies, because, like, I would need to see one of their movies that they actually wrote themselves to judge that. I'm not going to judge the Yaira trailer for their whole filmmaking career either, because that would be really stupid. And but yeah, so yeah, every wing on the menu, you know, Caribbean jerk, honey barbecue, teriyaki, regular barbecue, you just get every single wing and you try every one, and it's a lot of fun to do that. But when you really sit down, it's just, they're really gross because they're having an off day, just like I'm having an off day right now. And I bet a couple hours later, when Safi and I do our review, I'm just going to be magically perfectly better, and this will just be like, ha ha ha. So yeah. Sorry that at the end of this review I turned into a zombie, because I didn't know that was going to happen. I guess it's just because I'm still sick, and so yeah, shitty. So anyways, please like this video and comment and tell me if you like the review, because there's been this really weird, there was a really weird comment recently on my Mermaids video, and it said that the review was a play-by-play review. And I thought, like, I don't know what review they watched, but, like, I did not do a play-by-play of the entire movie. It would have taken a lot longer if I did something like that. I took a bunch of notes on the movie, and I want people to be able to understand, like, the scenes that I'm talking about in the context of when they happen, why they happen. And so, yes, I am going to, like, get into detail about things that happen in the movie, because that's what you do when you do a review. You know, you discuss and you talk about everything, and you turn into a zombie at the end. And so, also, please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more. If you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Yeah, this is not a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. This is a sequel to trash. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.